Satan viciously opposes Bible translations based on the original Textus Receptus Greek text. For hundreds of years, the Catholic Church controlled people by forbidding translation of the Bible. Since people had no Bible in their language, they didn't know that Catholic teachings disobeyed and opposed Bible teachings. In the year 1384, John Wycliffe completed the first translation of the whole Bible into English. He died the 28th of December that same year. He translated from the Latin Vulgate, so his translation was not perfect. Nevertheless, his translation caused people to question the sincerity and truthfulness of the Catholic Church. And for this, the Papists despised John Wycliffe so intensely that, in 1428, 44 years after his death, at the order of Pope Martin V, his remains were dug up, burned, and cast into the River Swift. William Tyndale was a gifted linguist with a master's degree from Oxford University, whom God called to translate the Bible from the original Masoretic Hebrew and Textus Receptus Greek text into English, which was still against the law at that time. Hearing a Catholic clergyman say, "We had better be without God's laws than the Pope's," Tyndale responded, "I defy the Pope and all his laws. If God spare my life ere many years, I will cause a boy that driveth a plow to know more of the Scripture than thou doest." Tyndale believed Acts 5:29. We ought to obey God rather than men. Trying to avoid breaking the law, if possible, Tyndale asked the bishop in authority over London, Cuthbert Tunstall, for permission to translate the Bible. Tunstall denied permission. Therefore, Tyndale fled to Europe to translate the Bible anyway, as God had called him to do. In 1526, Tyndale published the first translation ever of the Textus Receptus Greek New Testament text directly into English. It was printed on the newly invented Gutenberg printing press and smuggled into England to the common people. Like an atomic bomb exploding, Tyndale's translation blew away the deception covering the heresies and hypocrisies of the Church of England and Roman Catholic Church. But at this point, Tyndale was running short of funds. Nevertheless, God was watching over Tyndale. Bishop Tunstall, condemning Tyndale's translation, paid a high price to purchase all the copies from a merchant friend of Tyndale and then publicly burned them. Tyndale's merchant friend gave all the profit from the sale to Tyndale, who joyfully used it to print another more numerous edition, which he then smuggled into England. Tunstall and other Church of England leaders were furious and viciously slandered Tyndale and sought to kill him. Finally, in 1535, Tyndale was betrayed by a treacherous friend into the hands of the Papists, who imprisoned him until the next year, falsely charged him with heresy, then strangled him and burned him at the stake. Tyndale's last words were, "Lord, open the King of England's eyes." The King James Version of the Bible is considered by many to be the fifth and crowning revision and purification of Tyndale's translation. It is said that 84% of the King James Bible is exactly as Tyndale translated it. The King James translators merely updated archaic spelling and corrected errors. Critical text advocates attempt to discredit the King James Bible by falsely claiming that King James was a homosexual. He was not. He was the father of 7 children, all from one wife. But personal attacks and slander are standard operating procedure from the Nicolaitan critical text crowd. Most people don't realize how greatly the influence of Brooke, Westcott, and Fenton Hort upon modern Bible translators has hindered world evangelism. Westcott and Hort denied the verbal inspiration and infallibility of the Bible, denied the substitutionary atonement, advocated baptismal regeneration, and were not afraid to alter the Bible to make it teach their views. These men took 2 old corrupted New Testament manuscripts which contradicted each other in over 3,000 places in the Gospels alone, and combined their errors into one exceedingly corrupted text which deviates from the Textus Receptus Greek text and thus also from the King James Bible in 8,413 places. Here is a page from the corrupt Codex Sinaiticus. Note in the left column where part of a word has been erased and replaced with other letters. Note also the very different writing styles, which clearly indicate tampering. In addition to omitting many words, this manuscript adds 2 false books, the Epistle of Barnabas and the Shepherd of Hermas. This photo shows the last chapter of the book of Mark, in the corrupt Codex Vaticanus manuscript, where the last 12 verses are missing. Note that the bottom of the second column and complete third column are blank. This is the only vacant column space in the whole manuscript. Probably a scribe was instructed to leave them out, but left space for them just in case his boss changed his evil mind. Dean Virgin, a great Bible scholar contemporary with Westcott and Hort, correctly said that the text of these two codexes is very nearly the foulest in existence, exhibit fabricated texts, and are covered all over with blots, and are indebted for their preservation solely to their ascertained evil character. That is, they survived in such good physical condition only because they were so obviously corrupt that no one used them. The composite text made from these two codexes by Westcott and Hort is even more evil because it contains their combined errors. Sadly, the corrupt Westcott and Hort text, as edited by Nessel, Aland, Black, Martini, Metzger, and Wigren, became the source text used by translators of the United Bible Societies and Wycliffe Bible translators, and is the source text for the RSV, the New World Translation of the Jehovah's Witnesses, the NIV, the 1960 revision of the Reina Valera Spanish Bible, and the Allah Bibles of the Maga Alkitab, Indonesia. This man, Dr. Eugene Nida, trained translators for the American Bible Society, the United Bible Societies, the Summer Institute of Linguistics, and Wycliffe Bible translators. He negotiated an ecumenical translation agreement between the American Bible Society and the Roman Catholic Church to make translations that would not offend the Catholic Church. Nida brought the dynamic equivalence translation method to Bible translation. He taught translating thoughts instead of words. The problem with this is that words represent thoughts. So when you change the words, you change the thoughts. Dynamic equivalence is a license to corrupt while translating. God is concerned about the words, as these verses show. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part out of the book of life, and out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. Dynamic equivalence, translations of the corrupt critical text of Westcott and Hort, are the most effective hindrances to evangelism ever devised by Satan.